जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुनातीरावनचारी। यमुनातीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जना। यमुनातीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय गांधर्विका गिरिधारी गौर हरि। जय निताय गौर सुंदर, जय निताय गौर सुंदर, निताय गौर सुंदर, जय निताय गौर सुंदर। जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvatamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everybody for this wonderful Bhagavad Gita class. So every day in ISKCON Whitefield we have a Bhagavad Gita class in the evening. So we take one verse every single day, and currently we are on chapter number 2, and today's verse is verse number 24. So before starting, I would like to express my gratitude towards Srila Prabhupada, because of whom we all are sitting here. And this wonderful setup which has been given to us is only because of Srila Prabhupada. Because Srila Prabhupada, just to fulfill the instruction of his spiritual master, he took so much of so much of difficulties, and then he actually went to the West at the age of 70. So it's not ordinary, right? It's very, very rare. It's very difficult at the age of 70, where people start to think to retire and completely just retire and just relax. So at that age, Srila Prabhupada started for abroad, right? A country where no one is there whom he knows, first of all. And second thing is, let's say if a person has some money, at least he can manage, right? If he goes out, even if in a different city, it's difficult, right? If he doesn't have any resource or doesn't have any money, forget about that. And the second thing is, it doesn't know anyone. So, and that too in a different country altogether. So we couldn't even imagine, right? We can't even imagine of that situation, but Srila Prabhupada did that. And just to fulfill the desire of a spiritual master. So he went to America, and he just had 40 rupees with him, and just few sets of Bhagavatam which he translated, and just 40 rupees, that's it. And one set of dhoti kurta which he was wearing, and behind the set. So just simple things, and and then he went with that, and he started this revolution which is now spreading across the world. So and so many people are actually taking the shelter of this revolution of Sankirtana, right? The Hare Krishna movement or Sankirtana movement. So this is only because of Srila Prabhupada. If he would not have taken this step to fulfill the desire of his spiritual master, then we would not have been sitting here today and discussing about Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's so glorious. Very, very few people are there who are actually interested to discuss and to read Srimad Bhagavatam, to read the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita. And we are able to do this because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So we should be very, very grateful to Srila Prabhupada and take this Krishna consciousness movement very, very seriously to perfect our lives, and then to spread this Krishna consciousness movement, to give this message to others as well, so that everybody in the entire world can be benefited. More and more people, more and more souls can come closer to the Lord and become happy. So that's what this movement is all about. So with this gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, today we'll take verse number 2.24, chapter 2, verse number 24. So just a quick background. It'll be a short discussion. So quick background before we take this verse. In the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we know that Arjuna gets bewildered. That's the main thing. And when Arjuna tells Krishna, asks Krishna that, "Oh Krishna, please take this chariot in between the two armies. I want to see who is there with whom we have to fight," right? So when Krishna takes the chariot in between the two armies, and he asks Arjuna, "Now you can see who is there to fight, right, with us." And when Arjuna sees that, "Oh, there are my relatives, there are my brothers, and my grandfather Bhishma, my teacher Dronacharya, how can I fight with them? And how can I kill them?" Right? So the various reasons Arjuna gives that why I will not fight to Krishna, right? And then we'll not discuss in detail. So Arjuna gives various reasons that this is why I will not fight. This is why I will not fight. And then finally he puts down his bow on the ground, on the chariot, sorry. And then he tells Krishna, "I will not fight at all." And just imagine such a great warrior, and he is telling that I will not fight. How can this happen? So then he loses all his temper, right, and all his confidence. So then Krishna inspires Arjuna. And the very basic or very fundamental knowledge which Krishna gives at the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita is about the difference between the body and the soul. Because Arjuna was looking around him in terms of body, right? In the bodily conception, right? These are my relatives. He's my teacher. He's my grandfather. How can I kill them, right? Because he's seeing the connection of his body with the bodies of others, right? But he's not able to see them on the platform of the soul, spirit soul, and because of which he gets bewildered. So then Krishna inspires Arjuna, and he starts with this fundamental basics of spirituality, which is the concept of body and soul, right? So in the second chapter, Krishna is actually describing about the characteristics of a soul, right? So that Arjuna, gets, he can rise above from the bodily conception to the platform of soul. That's what he is doing, Krishna is doing. So from verse number 16 onwards in the second chapter, Krishna is trying to give or list out so many qualities of a soul or characteristic of spirit soul. And in continuation to that, in this verse number 24, so Krishna continues with the qualities of a soul, right? How soul is. So this verse goes like this. Maybe you can repeat after me. Achedyoyam adayoyam akledyo shoshya evacha nityah sarvagata sthanur achaloyam sanatanaha. So we'll not go to word meanings, and we'll see the meaning of each and every word when we go to the translation. So basically in this verse, Krishna is telling about the characteristics of the qualities of a soul. That's it, nothing else. So let's see the translation. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So translation is like this. The individual soul is unbreakable, right? and insoluble, and can be neither burnt nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Now we can just see, right, what are the Sanskrit words. So we can see achedyaha, it means unbreakable. Ayam means this soul, he is telling about this soul. Adahayah means unable to be burnt, means we cannot burn a soul. And ayam, again this soul. Akledyaha means insoluble. Ashoshya means not able to be dried. We cannot dry a soul with the wind. And akledyaha means, okay, this is done. Nityaha means everlasting. Sarvagataha means all pervading. Sthano means unchangeable. The qualities in the form of a soul does not change. Achalaha means immovable, again the same thing. Sanatana means eternally the same, right? So if we now let's see these qualities one by one, or let's just focus on some of these qualities in detail. So if you see the purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning firstly in the first paragraph about these qualities. Nitya, everlasting. Sthanuhu, which is unchangeable. Achalaha means immovable, and Sanatana means eternally the same. He's eternal. So Srila Prabhupada is focusing on these qualities first in the purport, first part of the purport. So let's read out. All these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit whole, and he remains the same atom eternally without change. The theory of monism is very difficult to apply in this case because individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. So we can see that in Bhagavad Gita chapter number 15 verse number 7, we'll see, it's too far, but yet we can just see what Krishna says about the living entities, right, about the individual souls. So Krishna says in verse number 15.7 in Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivamsho jivaloke jiva bhutah sanatanaha. So we can see Krishna is telling Arjuna that Mamaiva amsho, right? Mama eva amsho. So if we split the Sanskrit word, Mama means mine. Krishna is telling mine. Eva means certainly. And amsha, what is amsha? Amsha means particle or fragment, right? So Krishna is telling that jiva bhutaha means all the living entities, sanatana, they are eternal. And how they are, who they are my fragments, fragmental parts and parcels, right? Mamaiv amsho, they are my ansha, right? Amsha. So similarly, that's what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in this purport, the first line, that Krishna is telling, right, that all the living entities, wherever we see the living entities, it can be an insect, it can be a bird, it can be an animal or human beings, whatever it is, doesn't matter, or an aquatic animal, right? So wherever there is a spirit soul, right, all those spirit souls are the fragmental parts and parcels of me, Krishna is telling. So they are my portions, they are my parts and parcels. Now the same thing Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here, that this individual soul is the atomic particle of the spirit whole, right? And what it's saying in continuation, that he will remain as the fragment, that part and parcel of Krishna forever, right? And it can never change. It can never happen that this identity of the soul, that he is a part and parcel of the Lord, of Krishna, changes. That after 1,000 years, I'll not be the part and parcel of Krishna. No, it's not possible. Because here a very nice word is mentioned, Sanatana, that eternal. And eternally what? He will remain same, unchangeable, right? We can see this word, Sthanuhu, unchangeable. Till what time? Forever, eternally. From minus infinity to positive infinity. So always the living entity will be an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. This is our identity, right? So this is what Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here in the purport, and Krishna is saying that this living entity or soul is eternal. He lives forever, and forever he remains as a part and parcel of me, right? And so that's what unchangeable means. That's what unchangeable means. Always he remains, this identity remains as a part and parcel of Krishna. Then, okay, now we'll focus on some other qualities. Insolubility. So we can see one quality here Krishna is mentioning. Where it is? Insoluble. Yeah, this one. Akledyaha, right? So what does it? What do we mean by insoluble? So it's very simple. The impersonalists say that when a living entity or a spirit soul leaves the body, let's say at the time of death, when it leaves the body, so what will happen, that the soul will merge into the Brahman, right? It will merge into Brahman, and the identity of the soul will be lost. So basically it will merge into Brahman. Now identity is lost, right? I was a separate individual entity. Now I'm not a separate individual identity. I've been merged into the Brahman, right? And I no longer exist as a separate entity. I've merged into Brahman, right? So that's what the impersonalist philosophy goes like this, right? But actually it is not the case, because here again this verse is enough to prove that a living entity can never be merged into Brahman, right? And the identity can never be lost. That's what we discussed just now, right? That always it will remain as a part and parcel of Krishna. Means always it will remain, this identity will be remaining with him. It will never get lost, right? Unchangeable. And eternally, always, forever. Never it will happen that a living entity will merge into Brahman and the identity as a part and parcel or separate entity will be lost. Never it will happen. So that's what Krishna is telling here. It's insoluble, right? It cannot be dissolved, or the identity cannot be lost. Now let's take some other few remaining qualities which Krishna is mentioning about. Okay, if we continue this upon this quality insoluble, so there are two choices which a living entity has after death, or even before death, right? So basically the choices are, if you talk about after the soul leaves the body, so there are two choices. First one is he can either float in the Brahma Jyoti, right? He can be liberated from this material world and he can float in the Brahma Jyoti forever, means for a very, very long time. Second choice is he can go to the spiritual planet, Golok, Vrindavan, Vaikuntha planets. Those are spiritual planets. So he can go to the spiritual planet and he can eternally serve in a relationship with, he can serve the Lord in a loving relationship. So when a soul chooses the first option, that I want to float, the individual living entity's soul will float in the Brahma Jyoti for a very, very long time, then what will happen is there will be no relationship, right? And it'll be like a monotonous condition, right? He'll always be floating and there's no relationship and there is no ananda in that way. He'll not be able to experience the bliss in serving the Lord, right? But the second option, the devotees never want the first option, because they always want to serve the Lord even when they are on this planet, in this world, material world, or wherever they are, in the spiritual world also. They always want to have a loving relationship with the Lord, and they always want to serve the Lord, right? They want to please the Lord. And when we please the Lord, we also automatically get pleased. Just like there's an example which is given. For example, if you want a tree or a plant to grow very nicely, or if you want the water to reach each and every part of the plant, will you give water to every part of the plant individually or only on the roots, right? So if you just pour the water on the roots, the water will automatically go to all the parts of the plant, the body of the plant. So, and everything will be nourished. Similarly, because we are the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, so when parts and parcels are, basically when we serve the Supreme Lord, automatically the parts and parcels will also get nourished, right? We'll also get pleased in that way. So that's how it's logically we can understand this. So devotees always want to serve the Lord. There is no other option for the devotees. And So this is in continuation to the quality which is insoluble, akledyah, right? And now let's talk about some other qualities of a soul. In the second paragraph, if we see in the purport, so the word sarvagatah is mentioned. What do you mean by sarvagatah? Sarva means everywhere, and gataha means existing or pervading, right? So a soul is sarvagataha. So what does it mean? It's very simple. The living entity, it simply means that the living entities, the souls, are present everywhere. If we see in the water, living entities are present. If we see on the land, living entities are present. If we try to see in the air, living entities are present. Even in fire, living entities are present. That's what the scriptures claim, right? So how can we understand this, right? So there is something called three modes of there are five gross elements, right? Earth, water, air, fire, ether, and our body is made up of that. The combination of these five elements. So the living entities who are living in the water, they have a different kind of body so that they can sustain in water, right? Similarly, we as human beings have a different combination of these five elements: earth, water, air, fire, ether, so that we can sustain, on the land very nicely. Similarly, there are living entities in the fire also, and they have a certain combination so that they can sustain in fire, right? So in this way we can see that living entities are present everywhere. They are sarvagataha, right? And okay, so this is one quality, sarvagataha. And one more quality we can see from here, that the soul can never be burnt, right? The body can be burnt, but the soul can never be burnt. The soul can never be broken, and the soul can never be dried by the wind. So these are some of the qualities of a soul which Krishna is trying to mention here. So basically, as the individual living entities, as parts and parcels of the Lord, what is our duty now that this question arises, right? We always remain as the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So what are we supposed to do, right? This question should come in our minds. So then, the scriptures answer that as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, we are meant to serve the Lord in a loving relationship, right? So if we do that, then automatically we as living entities, as parts and parcels, we automatically will get nourished and will always be happy and blissful. That's what is the conclusion of the scriptures. So just like one more example we can see, if we give food to the stomach, automatically the nourishment goes to each and every organ of the body, right? It's very simple, it's very logical. So in a similar way, we can understand that when we as a part and parcel of the Lord, if we just serve the Lord unconditionally, in a loving relationship, then automatically we will also get nourished, right? We can see these two examples. One is example of a tree, watering the root of a tree, of a plant, and giving food to the stomach, and automatically all the parts of the body get nourished, right? So in that way we can understand that this is our duty, Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas, that what is the Swarupa or identity of a living entity, we as souls or parts and parcels of the Lord. So the identity is Krishnera Nityadas, that we are always the servants of the Supreme Lord, and we are meant to serve Him unconditionally. Then we'll always be happy and blissful in our life forever. So with this we'll stop here, and thank you very much for attending. And this whole setup of discussion of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, again is only due to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So let's always be grateful to Srila Prabhupada, and let's try to, let's try to perfect our lives by taking the shelter of Bhagavad Gita each and every single day, and always let's try to, share this message of Bhagavad Gita with others as well, so that more and more living entities can, or more and more people can actually come and they can also get benefited. And this month is very, very special because this is a Gita Jayanti month, so that's why the devotees are always enthusiastic, very, very happy to share this message of Bhagavad Gita with more and more people, right? So on 3rd of December we had Gita Jayanti, and it's always very, very adventurous, very blissful to share this message of Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, by the way, that whoever shares this confidential message of Bhagavad Gita with others is very, very dear to me, very dear to me. So let's be dear to Krishna and let's serve Krishna in that way by distributing or sharing this message of Bhagavad Gita to each and every soul on this entire planet and universe in general. Yeah, thank you very much for attending the session, and please pray for me so that I can also realize whatever is there in the Bhagavad Gita, in the scriptures, and each of us can grow in Krishna consciousness. Right? So thank you, Hare Krishna.